Sikaz, who is the general manager for Abercrombie and Kent, Australia. And you know that she knows her stuff because she's joining us live from Australia, where it is 8 in the morning on Thursday. Is that right, Kathy?
Correct.
8 in the morning on Thursday. Before I hand it over, let me just remind you all that we do have a show offer, so be sure to stay on until the end. And with that, I will hand it over to Kathy.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is early in the morning here. It's 8 o'clock here in Melbourne, and that's where I live. Thank you very much, Catherine, for that lovely introduction. I very much appreciate it. And I also want to thank all of you for taking the time to learn a little bit about my part of the world, which is right on the other side of the planet, the South Pacific. Also, I do wish all of you, I hope that all of your family and your loved ones are safe and healthy during these challenging times. Well, Australia has been voted the second safest country in the world, only to be pipped by Japan. Although post-COVID-19, I think New Zealand is going to win that award. Speaking of COVID-19, a quick update for Australia. At the moment, we have been under some very strict restrictions. The government imposed these many, many months ago. Unfortunately, Victoria has had a second outbreak, but I am happy to say that due to these harsh restrictions in the whole country of Australia, we only have 9 people in intensive care. Of those 9 people, 6 are from Victoria due to the second wave. So the rest of Australia, besides Victoria, is moving around very, very easily. So that is great, great news. We are hoping that our international border will open to New Zealand by the end of the year. And then, pending the success of that, we very much hope that our international borders will be open to our North American travellers probably in the second quarter of next year. Well, Victoria, my home state, Melbourne is the city in Victoria, and Melbourne is the sporting capital of Australia. In fact, it is home to the Australian Open tennis tournament. The players often refer to this as their favourite tournament. And that is simply because the arena is so close to the city. You can walk to the arena from the city. It is also a very family-friendly tournament, and you get lots and lots of people over the 2-week period. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be in Melbourne. And we can organise VIP passes for you. We can also get premium seating, dining packages. If you wanted a tennis clinic, we can organise that for you. And of course, we can even organise for you to meet some of the players and coaches. The best way to see Melbourne is on a walking tour through the many, many alleys and arcades of Melbourne. The gentleman in this particular picture, his name is Kenneth Park. He's a great raconteur. He's a wonderful storyteller. He lives in the city, and he is the ex-curator of the Australian Museum. So he will take you on a walking tour through all of these beautiful alleys and arcades, where you will see people like me enjoying my morning coffee before I go to work. There are lots of beautiful shop fronts, little cosy restaurants, rooftop bars. And Melbourne is also one of only 3 cities in the world where the state government has commissioned street art. So when you go down some of these alleyways, you'll see this amazing street art on both sides of the walls. So just leaving Melbourne, but still in the state of Victoria, a lovely day trip, and this is what I would do with all of my friends when they come from overseas, is a day trip down the Great Ocean Road. This coastal drive has been rated in the top 10 coastal drives of the world, simply because you are driving right along the edge of the cliffs, and we end up at a place called the 12 Apostles, where you will see these 12 cliffs that have departed from the mainland, and it's just a wonderful sight to see. Beautiful fishing villages you pass, amazing surf coasts, wonderful place and a wonderful way to spend a day. We know how important it is to connect with people. It is people that make the difference of a holiday, it makes a holiday become extraordinary. This particular lady is Lois Peeler. She is located on the bottom right-hand side, and she was born on a historic Aboriginal reserve. She became a well-respected singer in a band called the Sapphires, which consisted of 4 Aboriginal women who travelled all the way to Vietnam during the war, and they performed in front of the American and the Australian troops. Her story is so inspirational that they actually have made a movie called The Sapphires. So I strongly urge all of you to put that on your list to watch. Nowadays, her life is all about educating Aboriginal women, and she is the principal of Australia's only Aboriginal women's college. And this is located only 1 hour from Melbourne, and we can get you to meet Lois, meet the children, and learn about what she is doing to improve their life. Let's move across to Tasmania, which is the southern island just off Victoria. It's about a 45-minute flight, and it's very well known for the Tasmanian devil, which is in this particular shot. Our local hero in Tasmania is an inspiring man called Greg Irons. His lifelong dream was to own a wildlife sanctuary to protect our native species. Well, at a very young age, and with the help of his parents, they purchased Bonorong Wildlife Park. He is a great ambassador for saving the Tasmanian devil, which is located on your right-hand side. Unfortunately, this particular native animal has become an endangered species because of a cancerous growth. So they are working very hard to save this species. Tasmania offers plenty for active travellers, and this 4-day hiking journey is one of my personal favourites. I love this hike because it traverses this beautiful open space of pristine beaches, but as well as that, you go into the rugged interior where you're surrounded by forests and forests of all the beautiful and bird life and animals, so it has a great contrast. It's located on the east coast corner of Tasmania. Whilst this is a hiking holiday, it still provides a level of luxury when you stay at this beautiful award-winning eco lodge called the Bay of Fires Lodge. All your alcohol, all your food is included. You have the opportunity to have spa treatments, foot massages after your day of hiking, and of course, time to relax and enjoy the library. We also spend the 3rd night nestled in a protected sand dune under a canvas tent. Tasmania is also recognised amongst the golfing elite. Barnbougle is now a name that represents 2 iconic links golf courses, being the Dunes and the Lost Farm. They are both rated in the top 5 golf courses in Australia. In fact, the US Golf Digest rated the Dunes number 11 and the Lost Farm number 23 in the world. Mona is the Museum of Old and New Art. It houses the largest collection of private artwork in the Southern Hemisphere, and this is located 5 minutes from Hobart on a beautiful winery estate. The gentleman who owns this particular collection, his name is David Walsh. He is a native of Tasmania, and he actually spent $10 million of his own money to build this museum to house his collection. and then he spends $2 million each year for the upkeep. A lot of people from mainland Australia, like myself, we will go to Tasmania for 3 or 4 nights, and we will always include this wonderful collection in our visit. So moving from Tasmania, we're going to go across a little bit to South Australia. South Australia, of course, is recognised for the Barossa Valley, which is the wine region of Australia. Penfolds is Australia's most influential winemaker, and it is world renowned for its production of a collection called the Grange. At Abercrombie and Kent, we can get you to have an exclusive tasting, but we even go one step further, where you will be able to go into the laboratory of Penfolds. You have to put on your white jacket, and you will actually be able to make your own blend of red wine direct from the barrels. So you siphon it from all the different barrels, the Shiraz, the Grenache, the Cab Sauv. You put it in a test tube, and when you get the wine to the way you like it, Penfolds will bottle it for you. They will put your name on it and the different percentages, and you can take that home as a gift. It's a very educational and interactive experience. South Australia is also home to an area called the Flinders Ranges, which is the real outback of Australia. This beautiful little property here is called Aqaba Station, and it was built in the 1850s. It only has 5 rooms, and as you can see, you are surrounded by this amazing wilderness. You will see lots of kangaroos and all of the Australian native animals, but you'll see very few people here. And with Abercrombie and Kent, it's always in style. So just because we are in this remote wilderness area doesn't mean that we're not going to have good wine, wonderful food, and great service. The other thing that South Australia is very well known for is a small island off the coast called Kangaroo Island. This island, the Aussies, we refer to it as the Galapagos of Australia. The reason for this is that 2/3 of this island are under natural reserve, so they are protected. So you will find kangaroos here that can't be found anywhere else in Australia, the species of the kangaroo. You will find an abundance of koala bears. So when you land on this island and you are driving to your accommodation, you will see a mob of kangaroos on the side of the road. You'll see koala bears in the tree. This is the best place to see the Australian native animals in the open. So now we're going to move right across Australia to Western Australia, and this is on our western coastline. Western Australia is very well known for its native wildflowers. It is also known for a region that is called Australia's Last Frontier. This is the Kimberley region of Australia. It's the northern part of Western Australia. A&K has chartered a Pennant vessel called Le Ballot for an all-inclusive 13-day expedition cruise along the rugged Western Australia Kimberley coastline. She will visit in May of 2021 with a maximum of 148 guests, and all A&K expedition team and all land programs included. It is sure to sell out. The starting point is the remote Pearling Township of Broome. Broome is a mixing pot of contrasting colours, from the red ochre cliffs to the white sandy beaches to the turquoise waters. It is a paradise for nature lovers and artists of all types. And that is why the magazine Australia Traveller has voted Broome as number 5 in the 2019 edition of the 100 Best Towns in Australia. We spend 2 nights in Broome, so you can enjoy a 4-wheel drive along the white sandy beaches. Or if you would like to do it at a slower pace, why not a camel ride at sunset? With our zodiacs, there is plenty of opportunity to explore this remote coastline in which you can feel one with nature and be dwarfed by your surroundings. You will learn about Aboriginal culture and Aboriginal history. As I mentioned, all of our land programs are included. This particular one involves a scenic helicopter flight over the Bungle Bungles, a World Heritage listed site. It took over 350 million years to form these beehive domes, yet it was only discovered by a Western film crew in 1983. It is hard to believe that there are still parts of Australia being discovered today. We have a pre-tour extension to an area called Ningaloo Reef, where you can swim with these gentle giants. It is the only fringing reef in Australia, and it is considered one of the most pristine reef systems in the world, and it is located on the west coast of Australia. Everyone knows we have the Great Barrier Reef on the east coast, but very few people know that we have a wonderful reef system on the west coast. We have a post-tour extension that is dedicated to our wine lovers as we visit the southwest region of Perth. It is called Margaret River. This region only produces 2% of the total crush of Australian grapes, yet 62 of the 85 cellar doors has been awarded a 5-star rating or higher in the 2019 Halliday Wine Companion. So this means that the quality of grape and wine produced in this region is better than any other part of Australia. If you don't have 13 days to explore the Kimberley by vessel, another option to consider is a 6-night private helicopter safari in a region that is largely inaccessible by any other means. Your experienced pilot will fly you to the hidden gems of this magnificent landscape. Our local hero in Western Australia is a gentleman called Dr. Richard Wiley. He is a Nugan man, and he is one of Australia's leading Aboriginal performers, writers, and musicians. He has been awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia for his contribution in promoting Aboriginal culture. Richard is also a very renowned didgeridoo player, the big Aboriginal instrument, that long one in the picture. So much so that in 2001, he was requested to go to Westminster Abbey in London, and he performed in front of dignitaries, including Queen Elizabeth II herself. Heading right up the top of Australia to the Northern Territory, which is infamous to the famous crocodiles that we have. They look pretty scary, and they get very, very big. A great way to see the top end of Australia, because of all the waterways and the river systems and the billabongs that we have, is on an airboat adventure, where you will see an abundance of bird life and the buffalo strolling amongst the reeds. These are the magpie geese, flocks and flocks of them you will see. You will also see the iconic Jabiru stork. It is the only stork in all of Australia, and it can only be found in the floodplains of the Northern Territory. The Northern Territory is also home, and it's where you will see Aboriginal rock art that dates back to over 55,000 years. Due to the remoteness of this area, you can get up close to these natural galleries. You might not realise, but our Aboriginals are actually the world's oldest living culture. Travel with local identity Saab Lloyd and spend time with his Aboriginal family. He has been visiting these communities since he was a child and has privileged access to their lands. And this is why you will have the opportunity to share stories with the locals. Now we're going to head to the centre of Australia, and this is Ayers Rock, or as the Aboriginals refer to as Uluru. It is a massive sandstone, and it is the largest in the world. In fact, 3/4 of this rock are actually under the ground. It is very sacred to the Aboriginals, and it took over 550 million years to form. A good way to see the Northern Territory is on the Ghan Expedition. It is a 3-night journey, and it starts in the top part of Australia, Darwin, and it goes all the way to Adelaide. It is all inclusive, and it stops at some very interesting spots along the way. One of them is Kuya Beach, where 80% of the population live under the ground because it is so hot. But this area is famous for a wonderful gemstone called the opals. So if you want to find your opals and buy those opals, it's in this area you would go. From the Northern Territory, we're going to head across to the east coast of Australia, and that is Queensland. Queensland, of course, is very well known for the Great Barrier Reef, the largest living organism on this planet. And it is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. There are many choices of accommodation in far north Queensland. You can stay on the mainland, or you can go to one of the many, many islands. My personal favourite island is this, Lizard Island. The reason I love this island is because it is the only island that is located on the Great Barrier Reef. So when you wake up in the morning, and maybe before breakfast, you want to do a bit of exercise, you put on your snorkel gear, and you can go snorkeling right off the beach, and you will be snorkeling amongst the most pristine ribbon reefs in the world, and you will see an abundance of fish, of coral, of purple clams. What a way to start the day. Our local hero in Queensland is a gentleman called Alan Carl. He is an inspiring man for his passion and dedication to saving the global rainforest. In fact, he often travels to remote jungles around the world where he will live with the local communities for months at a time. Australian Border Force have granted Alan permission to bring seeds and plants back into Australia because he has his own quarantine station. And exclusive to Abercrombie and Kent, we can visit his private home where you will find plants and species that are now extinct in the rest of the world. He is truly an inspiring man and wonderful to listen to. If you're travelling with a family to Queensland, a great experience for families is to go hunting and gathering at Kuya Beach, which is a beautiful beach just north of Cairns, where you will collect your own lunch with an Aboriginal elder, and then you will go back, his name is Juan, you'll go back with Juan, with your crabs and whatever else, your fish that you've caught, you will cook it, and you will interact with Juan's family as well. It's an afternoon experience. The people that we have had go here absolutely love it. Finishing our journey in Australia, of course, is the state of New South Wales, the city of Sydney, where you will see the Sydney Opera House, one of the 7 modern wonders of the world. And of course, you've got the Sydney Harbour Bridge in the backdrop. I said the best way to see Melbourne was on a walking tour with a guide. The best way to see Sydney is by vessel. And we have created an experience, and it's called the Long Lunch. So you board your vessel, you do a bit of sightseeing, and then we're going to stop at a local restaurant to have our appetizer. Then we're going to reboard the vessel, we're going to do some more sightseeing, we're going to go to a different restaurant in a different part of Sydney where we're going to have our entree, and we do it again to have our dessert. As a local, I would love to do that, and we have had positive comments from our travellers from overseas. It just gives you that real, authentic, local experience. Another way to see Sydney, of course, is on a cycling tour. We have many, many cycling tracks throughout the harbour. We'll have a guide go with you. We prepare a picnic lunch, and you have a wonderful stop or a rest at a little beach, and you see the beautiful skyline of Sydney, but also what the locals are doing. And speaking of locals, the lovely lady and gentleman on your left-hand side is Alex and James. Alex, in the forefront, she was the anchor woman for Channel 10 News. She has retired from that, and now she works with Abercrombie and Kent, and she has opened her home to our guests. So you will go to her home, you will go with her to a local market, her little secret local market. You will buy fresh produce. You will come back to her home. We will cook a lovely meal, and then you'll enjoy a lovely meal together. It's all about spending time with the local people of Australia. And if you want to celebrate a special occasion, we can organise for you to have your very own walk-on roll during a live stage production on centre stage at the Sydney Opera House. Have your hair and makeup done when you hear the 30-minute call. You have been fitted with a costume, and when the timing is right, you sneak on centre stage and you are amongst the chorus. You're on centre stage for about 10 minutes. There is a caveat, you're not allowed to sing. You pretend that you're singing, but you will have all the lights on you, and you will have 1,500 pairs of eyes staring at you. I'm sure that is something you would remember for the rest of your life. Now let's head across the ditch to New Zealand. Whilst I told you how successful Australia has been in handling the COVID-19 situation, while New Zealand has had even greater success, and they currently have no one in ICU, and they haven't for many, many, many weeks, and they are moving freely, so the New Zealanders can move freely within the country. There are no restrictions. Again, they are hoping that their international borders to the North American market will be open around the end of the first quarter, early into the second quarter. New Zealand is a photographer's paradise, and it is blessed with a pristine environment in a country that only has 5 million people. The land of the long white cloud will be very appealing to our post-COVID-19 travellers due to the diverse range of spectacular landscapes which can be easily accessed on the North and South Island. In a country just 1,000 miles in length and with an area that is smaller than Colorado, you will find everything from untouched alpine vistas, active volcanoes, lush rainforests, and the remote white sandy beaches to enjoy. The ultimate way, well, there are many ways to experience the Fiordland area, which is the south part of the South Island. But the ultimate way, as we did recently for a private group, is to board a private helicopter and explore the Mount Aspiring National Park by air, where you will get a bird's eye view of the stunning glaciers and snow-capped peaks. On this particular journey, we had this wonderful helicopter flight, and then we landed on the west coast, which is very, very rugged, and we saw these wonderful giant sea lions. But look at that backdrop. So you've got your white sandy beaches where you've landed, you've got this amazing backdrop and these wonderful sea lions. We reboarded our helicopters, and then we landed on the edge of Lake Lochnia. So this was a group, so you can see the number of helicopters there. There was not another building, not another person in sight. We were just surrounded by nature. Well, nearly From the depths of the lakes, these two young crayfish, or you would say lobster divers, brought us our lunch. Look at the size of these crayfish. This is as fresh as it gets. And in true A&K style, we had set up morning tea in this remote location where we enjoyed Dom Perignon and oysters. And this gentleman is actually Jeffrey Kent, our owner, who could not believe how big the crayfish were. We rebought our helicopters, and we bought our helicopters with our lobster in hand, and we head to a wonderful lodge called Fiordland Lodge, where we enjoyed a succulent seafood feast. That is a great way to experience the Fiordlands. Since COVID-19, many of our travellers are requesting activities away from the crowds. This is Tara Itty Golf Course, and it is located 1.5 hours north of Auckland. It has just been ranked the second best international golf course in the world. And it is New Zealand's first ever American-style private club. Members are kept small and hand-picked, and we can offer you the chance to play this spectacular links course with your resident pro. So from golfing to biking, New Zealand is blessed with many wonderful cycling tracks, and this particular one has the backdrop of Mount Cook, the largest mountain in New Zealand. New Zealand is world renowned for its hiking. A wonderful track on the North Island is the Tongariro Alpine crossing. It is actually located in New Zealand's oldest national park, and it is a dual World Heritage listed site. It is surrounded by 3 volcanic peaks, and National Geographic has rated it in the top 10 day hikes in the world. Experience New Zealand's night sky and wilderness from the Night Sky Cottage, which is located at the entrance of that Tongariro crossing. Complete with a private boardwalk surrounded by protected manuka and beech trees, this cottage takes you away from light pollution, and that's why you will be able to see all the stars from the southern hemisphere. It is the most eco-friendly property in all of New Zealand, and if you want to be on your own, there is only one cabin here. We also have the option to bring a chef to cook the meals for you. From hiking to fly fishing in one of the many river systems throughout New Zealand. This one is located on the South Island in the Ahuriri Valley, not far from Mount Cook, where you can enjoy catching trout in the crystal clear glacier-fed waters with just you and your expert guide. This valley is also home to the Flinders. It is located on 6,000 acres of private land and surrounded by 3 conservation parks. It has won many international awards for its architectural design. The Rob Report described it as New Zealand's newest adventure lodge is a plush hobbit house straight out of Middle Earth. The Flinders is another kind of fairy tale. Of course, if you want something more adrenaline charged, then experience a quad bike adventure at Skipper's Canyon in Queenstown. This is also a great option for families, as children aged 6 can join their parent on one of the bikes. And for the ultimate thrill seeker, why not bungee jump from the 440-foot Nevis Bridge? It is the highest in New Zealand. People from around the world flock to take part in this particular activity. It has now become world renowned and recognised as the adventure tourism capital of New Zealand. And speaking of bungee jumping, a local legend that we have in New Zealand is the gentleman on your right-hand side. His name is Henry Van Ash, And the gentleman on the left-hand side is our owner, the owner of Abercrombie and Kent, Mr. Geoffrey Kent. So Henry Van Ash is the godfather of bungee jumping in the modern world. Henry, with some of his mates, started bungee jumping in the 80s. To get the world's attention, he went to France and he jumped off the Eiffel Tower. It was in 1987. Of course, he was arrested immediately, but he was released about 15, 20 minutes later. Well, the rest is history. With a 100% safety record and a multi-site business on both the North and South Island of New Zealand, he is a true inspiration of what he has done for adventure tourism. Another local hero that we have in New Zealand is Grant Taylor. He was one of the first winemakers to come to the central Otago area in the early 90s. So this is the surrounding area of Queenstown on the South Island. He has lived through the history over the last 2 decades, and he has seen this region become recognised across the world. Today, Grant makes his own label of wine, a terrier series of Pinot Noirs from the different sub-regions of this area. And his wine is called Bali. He has his own TV show. He reports on radio many times. He's a wonderful gentleman to learn about how this industry has grown. If you love rugby, then you will have heard of the All Blacks, which is which is New Zealand's national rugby team. They won the Rugby World Cup in 2011 and again in 2015. We can get you to meet with Tana Umaga, a former player and captain, or meet with Alama Iramia, a former player and coach of the All Blacks. We can get you inside the stadium, you can hold the trophy. So if you're into rugby, this is a great experience to include. It's all about connecting with the people, and we want to offer you a traditional connection with our Maori people, and we look forward to welcoming you soon as those borders are open, and they will be opened. And just to finish up, we also do Papua New Guinea. It is a culture that remains unchanged for hundreds of years. Papua New Guinea is also a bird watcher's delight. Did you know that there are 43 known species of bird of paradise on this planet? 38 of the 43 are located in the jungles of Papua New Guinea. And on that note, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to learn more about my part of the world. I hope that we can showcase what a wonderful part of the world this is. And on that note, I'd like to hand it back over to Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. That was fantastic. If that presentation and your accent doesn't get people inspired to go, I'm not sure what will.
Thank you.
Yes, we do have a few questions that came in. You addressed I guess, the elephant in the room of when borders will be opening. Of course, you don't know that, but we're hoping soon. As of right now, though, they are not open.
Correct.
But I would like to encourage everybody, please contact your advisor at Bon Voyage Travel. We can always keep you up to date on what is going on and the latest updates on that. So certainly though, however, you can still book an Abercrombie and Kent itinerary, because would you mind going over your booking with confidence policy?
Yes, not a problem at all. Thank you for that, Catherine. Yes, we know how uncertain the world is at the moment with COVID-19. So with Abercrombie and Kent, we do have a booking with confidence policy at the moment. So you can go ahead and book, and you have up to 30 days. So if we find out that the borders are closed, whether it's at your home destination, at your home, or in the destination that you are traveling to, you can cancel your trip up to 30 days without any penalty. And then we will hold that money on credit, and we will postpone your travels to a date when the borders are open or when it is safe.
Perfect. For those of us in the States here, we are approaching our fall season. And as you and I talked about, Kathy, you guys are approaching your spring season. So what does that mean in terms of the best season for us in the United States to come visit either Australia or New Zealand? What would be your suggestion?
Okay, so the best time to visit Australia, well, first of all, Australia actually is a year-round destination. So it doesn't have the extreme climate changes. So it is a year-round destination. But I would say that the best time to visit Australia, especially if you want to go to the Great Barrier Reef, is around about that September-October period. And the reason I say that is because it's when the wind is a lot calmer in that northern part of Australia. So the clarity of the reef is much, much clearer. But please keep in mind that Australia, you can travel in Australia, and we do have clients that travel in Australia year round. For New Zealand, it's a little bit more, not complicated, but a little bit more different. New Zealand, unless you want to go skiing, I would not come to New Zealand in the months of June, July and August, because the South Island of New Zealand gets a lot of snow, and that means the roads can get very icy, and there are road closures. So I would probably avoid those 3 months for New Zealand.
Perfect. What about your Abercrombie and Kent's average group sizes? We had a question about that, whether it's, you know, COVID related and we want smaller groups, or if it's just naturally we all like to have that personal one-on-one attention. So what are the average group sizes?
The average group sizes on the small luxury group journeys from our US that are coming into Australia are 18.
Very good. And then you also have your private journeys.
Absolutely. We do find that the majority of our travellers who come to Australia do tend to do it on a private basis. And that has worked very, very well for us. So that would probably be about, I would say, nearly 75% of our business are clients where we have customised the itineraries based on what they would like.
Very good. What about what's included? That's always a question. What would be included in a typical Abercrombie and Kent package?
Okay, if it's a customised itinerary, the things that we would include would be the local guide, the accommodation, the breakfast. We always include breakfast, the sightseeing, the entrance fees. So by far and large, I would say it's all inclusive, except we don't often include the dinners because we feel, especially in areas like Sydney and Melbourne and Auckland, people like to have the choice of which restaurant to go to. We recommend, of course, we've got a wonderful list of recommended restaurants, but people like to have that freedom. On our group journeys, a resident tour director is included. So that resident tour director will travel with you from beginning to end. Again, your breakfast, your accommodation, your touring, your transfers. So very similar to our tailor-made. The inclusions are very, very similar.
Excellent. Well, that about does it for the questions, Kathy. I think you wrapped it up so well in your presentation that there weren't too many that came in. But I did want to address the show offer. So for everyone that attends today at this webinar, you will get $500 off your any new booking for the next 60 days. So $500 off, that's $250 off per person, any new booking. So definitely reach out to a Bon Voyage travel advisor. If you don't have one, please visit bvtravel.com and we will connect you with an Australian, New Zealand expert, an Abercrombie and Kent expert, and we will get you set up with that wonderful show offer. So thank you, Kathy, so much. I appreciate your time and have a wonderful Thursday. All of us are wrapping up Wednesday.
You will probably be all enjoying, I hope, a nice glass of wine as you are heading into your evening. So thank you, right. Bon Voyage. You've been a wonderful partner of Abercrombie and Kent, and we really appreciate your professionalism, your expertise. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I hope that all of you will attend our next webinar next week. Please visit bvtravel.com/events for all of our Wednesday weekly webinars and sign up for those as well. So thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.